Hey, here's a list and mini review of every film I watched in 2022. We'll start with the films I watched for the first time and then move on to the rewatches. They aren't in any particular order. Right, starting off with Prey. I really enjoyed the action sequences of this film, and its cinematography was beautiful. I haven't really seen any of the other Predator films, so I can't compare it to the rest of the franchise, but I thought it was a really interesting watch, and all the performances were stellar. Alright, Jordan Peele's latest film is incredible. Nope was so different to anything else I've watched this year, or ever really. I can't talk about it too much without spoiling it, but go watch it. I'm sure you'll love it. If you don't, get your head checked. I expected this film to be another action cash grab, but I was really surprised. I went to see Bullet Train twice in cinemas and loved it both times. The writing is brilliant and every performance is incredible, especially those by Aaron Taylor-Johnson and Brian Tyree Henry, which is definitely the best character in the film. Go watch it. Oh my god, this film was awful. It was so excruciatingly unfunny every time it attempted a joke. There were these two goats that screamed 48 times. Right, 48. The plot was boring, Christian Bale was wasted, the writing was atrocious. Thor genuinely said, "He's right behind me, isn't he?" at one point. The CGI was horrible as well, which wasn't the VFX artist's fault, of course. I really wanted to love this film, but I was quite disappointed. Austin Butler gave a really good performance, but that's about the only positive thing. Pacing is all over the place, Tom Hanks sounds like a cartoon villain, the main villain of the film is Christmas, and the cinematography is really ugly. Remember, the only thing that got me through this film was the meal deal I bought beforehand. This was probably the most average film I've ever watched. Nothing was especially bad, nothing was especially good. It's just a cameo fest, but it's entertaining, I guess. There's not really much to say about it. I really wanted this film to be good. It wasn't. It was a cash grab. They had the absolute perfect setup for this film. Dinosaurs were loose in the world, yet they decided to make the film about locusts. Locusts. The dinosaur film was about locusts. There's other bad aspects, like how there's no tension or fear in the film. Like, look at the T-Rex 4x4 scene in the original film, and then look at Dr. Ian Grant running away from a herbivore with an MF Doom mask. Right, this one's a throwback to the first film I reviewed on Instagram. Follow me if you don't already. In Men, Alex Garland tries to white knight his way through a story about victims of abuse, yet fails in every single way. He tries to show the atrocities that are sadly regularly committed by men towards women, making a film about misogyny, but somehow manages to add to the problem by creating a 2D character whose only personality is being abused. Right, this is genuinely tied with Cop Shop as the worst film I've ever seen. Every bit of acting was stale, even though everyone's favourite wildcat Zac Efron was in it. The script was terrible, and I think it had a £15 budget based on effects. Alright, just for a bit of context, I don't really like the MCU, but I still watch this. Alright, Multiverse of Madness is kinda messy, but there are parts of it I like. The writing absolutely sucks, and the plot itself isn't great, but I really enjoyed Sam Raimi's direction of the film. He made the film one of the only MCU projects to actually move the camera, and actually created some good body horror. Alright, time to talk about my favourite film of all time. I could talk about this all day, and I'll probably make a video on it if this one does well, but for now I'll keep it brief. Everything Everywhere is an incredible voyage of love and loss told through the most absurd story you'll ever see. I genuinely love everything about this film. Please go watch it if you haven't already. Time to talk about my second favourite film. The Batman is by far the most visually stunning film I've ever seen. Whilst the plot, acting and performances are all phenomenal, the film is elevated massively by the gorgeous cinematography. I mean, just look at this shot. Turning red is a beautiful metaphor for the hormonal mess that is puberty. Director Domi Shi did a really good job portraying this by creating an incredibly fun-filled adventure that has really good performances. This film was kinda okay, I guess. The plot was a bit nothingy and the performances weren't great, and it had one of my least favourite actors in for obvious reasons. There are a few decent action scenes in the film that were sort of entertaining. If you have nothing else to watch, then sure, go for this, but I wouldn't really recommend it. Alright, I absolutely love the Jackass films. There's just something so entertaining about seeing the bond between the cast, and then seeing them hurt each other in the most absurd ways possible. Definitely watch them if you need a laugh. Honestly, I really enjoyed this film, and I wish it was a bit longer. Ethan Hawke and Mason Thames give really enjoyable performances, with Hawke occasionally being absolutely terrifying. Definitely give this film a watch if you like suspenseful films. My only real criticism was the boring cinematography. Everyone's favourite lawyer, Bob Odenkirk, was really entertaining in this film. To be honest, the plot and acting of the film aren't great. Nowhere near the levels of Odenkirk's famous role in the renowned show, The Mr. Show with Bob and David. The action in Nobody was the main selling piece of the film, and thankfully it was cool, especially the bus scene. Soul is an incredible film that I wanted to watch for ages. I had really high expectations based on what I'd heard, and I was not disappointed. I love animated films, maybe even more than I love live action, and the animation in Soul was just beautiful. I have nothing but love for the film. Go watch it if you haven't. This one was on my list for a while, and whilst it was a good film, I do think it was overhyped a bit. I enjoyed the performances and the cinematography, but I felt the pacing was a little off. I'm not a huge Queen fan, but if you are, you'll probably enjoy it. Mr. Vengeance himself, Robert Pattinson, took a break away from vampirism to obsess over a Sprite bottle, and I loved it. The lighting of Good Time was gorgeous, especially in the amusement park scenes. There were a couple of weird moments, like my favourite vigilante makes out with this literal child, but we move. Alright, this film is not good, like, at all. It doesn't even feel like a spoof film anymore. It's not nearly as funny as the first film, so there's not really anything good about it. Jake Gyllenhaal comes in as everyone's favourite photographer, Louis Bloom, in this one. His hobbies include making money and ironing his laundry, but it'll leave you remembering his iconic performance as a psychopathic snuff filmer. Jokes aside, this film is really good. Django is fantastic. Everyone knows it, everyone loves it. Some dodgy people say they love the time period it's set in, but we push past that. The direction by everyone's favourite foot fetish haver Quentin Tarantino is phenomenal, even if he did steal the idea from Kanye. And the performances by everyone's favourite vampire hunter and Nazi general duo, Jamie Foxx and Christoph Waltz, are spectacular. The cinematography is gorgeous, the music is incredible, and the action is so fun. The film's nearly perfect. Love this film, love the writing, love the alien dogs, can't wait for the sequel. Also love John Boyega, hate Disney for what they did to him. I mean, it's Brad Pitt and Christoph Waltz, what more could you want? Both are phenomenal, just like Diane Kruger and Melanie Laurent. The acting is so incredible, especially when talking about Waltz. I love the cinematography, especially the final cinema scene, which I can't show because I don't want to spoil the film. It's the second best war film I've seen, but 1917 beats it. It's Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, what more could you want? How could you not love a film that has this scene? It's a hilarious film, go watch it. Honestly, same message, how could you not love a film that has this scene? I have mixed feelings about this film. I thought it was definitely good, but I don't think it's as amazing as everyone says. I enjoyed the cinematography and the acting, and of course the story is beautiful. However, I do have issues with the film, such as the story between that old doctor and Mary Jane is just boring. If you like dogs, you'll love Snatch. It's funny, Brad Pitt is brilliant, the plot is entertaining, I really loved the heist theme, and every character in the film is a joy to watch. You like dogs? Do you like dogs? Do you want a dog? You get a free dog. Don't worry, I'm not one of them. I just think the film's good. Both director Mary Harron and actor Christian Bale do such a good job at creating such a hateable character. It's amazing. Also, the hip to be square scene is obviously fantastic. Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 1, Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 1, Rule 2, Rule 1, Rule I absolutely love The Truman Show. I think Jim Carrey is fantastic, and the entire narrative is splendid. There honestly isn't much I'd change about the film. It's one of my favourites. Alright, I watched this film on a plane, and I honestly think it was the best use of that time I could have possibly achieved. The dialogue of the film is incredible, and the complicated plot was just enough to keep me distracted from the 8-hour journey home in front of me. I loved it. There's honestly so much to say about this film. I don't think I can do it justice talking about it so briefly. I might make an entire video about it. If you couldn't tell, I absolutely love The Breakfast Club. There's just something about films where a story is told without any action or large events that's so charming to me. I love every character, as characters not as people, which just made this film such an enjoyable experience for me. Big up my wife Alison. I'm gonna say it. I don't like this film. Don't get me wrong, it is by no means bad. The Shining is an incredible feat of filmmaking and has changed the genre and the medium as a whole completely. However, I do think its effect has faded with time. Whilst the film was groundbreaking when it came out, now pretty much every film takes inspiration from it. It's hard to appreciate the initial uniqueness of a film when almost every film you've watched in your whole life tries to copy it in one way or another. The Shining is brilliant, but I don't like it. Everyone's favourite sweet transvestite Tim Curry is an absolute queen of everything in this glorious spectacle. If you haven't watched Rocky Horror, what are you doing? Once you finish this video, open up Disney Plus and watch it. Oh my goodness gracious, this film is a masterpiece. I know the release year and the subsequent black and whiteness of the film might put a lot of people off. You should watch 12 Angry Men if you haven't already. If you have, rewatch it. I don't care if you watched it yesterday, do it. Alright, we're back in America to talk about another Psycho, but this time they run a motel. The people I watched it with didn't like it because they're boring, but I love this piece by Hitchcock. The performances were brilliant and the ending, which don't worry, I won't spoil, is spectacular. What's in the box? A brilliant film. Brad Pitt and Morgan Freeman were incredible. Don't really want to compliment the other guy though. I loved the vast amount of religious imagery used throughout the film, and the use of close-up shots to create a claustrophobic feel that amplified the intensity of the situation. Is Pulp Fiction? Do I need to say more? Probably not, but I will anyway. This is my favourite Tarantino film. The 4 stories about one story are beautiful, and I obviously loved watching my wife Uma Thurman dance with famous skinwalker John Travolta. It is one of my favourite scenes from anything ever. I've watched 3 things created by Rian Johnson, and this is the second one I've liked. I had it spoiled for me, but it was still pretty enjoyable. I liked the non-linear storytelling, it really worked with the plot. Wes Anderson's first appearance on this list. I absolutely loved this film. Every single shot was gorgeous and I loved every single character. Pencil moustaches for life. I was a bit disappointed by this one. Don't get me wrong, the action was really cool, but I found the narrative and script, which is usually where Tarantino excels, to be a little disappointing. To be fair, I only watched the first one, so this might be fixed when I watch the second one. Alright, hear me out. Do Revenge is not the highest quality film of the year, but it's one of the most fun. For the first 30 minutes, the writing was on Love and Thunder levels, but this issue was mainly resolved as the film went on. The quality of the film is not brilliant, but I love it. I mean, it's brilliant. That's the only way to describe it. Whiplash is an amazing story of the decay of a person's mental health as they obsess over their art. Loved it. I've wanted to watch this one for a while, and I'm so glad I finally got round to it. Thomasin McKenzie and Anya Taylor-Joy were brilliant, and I enjoyed the appearance of my favourite doctor, Matt Smith. His lack of eyebrows does put me off, though. The twist was pretty cool, and some of the cinematography was pretty. Just wish it was scary. Kid Cudi goes on a pursuit of happiness in his debut film. I loved the art style and animation, but I did feel it dragged at points. I enjoyed my time watching Pixie, but it was a bit forgettable. Olivia Cooke was brilliant, Ben Hardy and Darren McCormack were funny, Irish accents were elite. Okay, this film got no marketing, so you might not have heard of it, but it's genuinely the most creative MCU project I've ever seen. I love the black and whiteness, and the surprising amount of violence Kevin Feige let Michael Giacchino get away with. Again, I'm not an MCU fan, but this one was really good. Genuine question, how do you make a film this bad? How do Christian Bale, Margot Robbie, John David Washington, Anya Taylor-Joy, Mike Myers, Rami Malek and Robert De Niro get outperformed at the box office by Shawn Mendes? Every Redditor's favourite film. It's fun. The cinematography is usually full of moving camera shots, which was really cool. It definitely dragged, but Leonardo DiCaprio is a fantastic actor. And in this, he's incredibly true to life, as he dates a 23-year-old. The power hierarchy of the DC universe has definitely changed. Jokes aside, this wasn't as terrible as I expected, but I did spend the whole film waiting for The Rock to raise his eyebrow. Florence Pugh was amazing, Harry Styles was awful. First half felt like a boring Truman Show, the second half was more unique and was so more entertaining. Robert Pattinson and Willem Dafoe were spectacular. The cinematography was stunning. Didn't love watching Batman have sex with a mermaid though. Daniel Kaluuya was incredible in this psychological thriller. I absolutely loved the plot, and I thought director Jordan Peele explored the horrific themes in a really interesting way. My only real critique was that the cinematography was a bit basic, so I'd like to have seen that improved. This film was okay. It wasn't really very scary, and the plot wasn't very gripping, but the acting was pretty good, and I really enjoyed watching it in the cinema. This is a big one. Director Ryan Coogler had a lot to deal with, and I think he did a really good job. Wakanda Forever masterfully deals with the loss the characters are feeling, whilst being respectful to the tragic passing of Chadwick Boseman. All of the acting was incredible, especially Letitia Wright, but unfortunately the best scenes in the film just remind you exactly what's missing. All Quiet on the Western Front, or Invest in Nish Noyes, was absolutely spectacular. Every performance was breathtaking, the cinematography was stunning, and the plot was of course heart-wrenching. It's 100% one of the best war films I've ever seen. This film was fun. I loved watching Jordan Peele and Henry Selick disprove Tim Burton's disgusting racist comments about diversity in his films. I loved the art style and the animation, but I do think the plot was a bit forgettable. I watched this one at the Surf Film Festival, and it was really interesting. I can guarantee 99% of you haven't heard of it. It follows the story of the Knight family and surfer Andrew Cotton, trying to recreate a journey from the 19th century treasure hunter's journal so they could surf waves that no one had ever surfed or even seen before. I watched this at 2:30 in the morning at a party, so I can't really give an in-depth analysis, but the parts I remember were good. The dialogue was always hilarious. I loved every character and how each actor portrayed them. This holiday special was really entertaining. It's not trying to tell a deep story, it's trying to be Christmassy Kevin Bacon based fun, and it does a really good job at that. I really enjoyed Call Me By Your Name. I thought Timothée Chalamet was incredible, and I really enjoyed the cinematography. The writing was brilliant, especially Michael Stuhlbarg's monologue toward the end of the film. There were some weird bits though. I think I've been put off peaches. Calamari By Your Name was lovely. It was just lovely. There's just something so sweet about it. I love the story, the voice acting, and the animation. These past two films have made me want to move to Italy. Oh my god, it was so terrible. I knew it was going to be bad, but I assumed it was at least going to be funny. Tusk was so painful to watch. There was a 10-minute discussion about a brown recluse spider that was just unintelligible. Tom Hardy was absolutely brilliant in this. His portrayal of both the psychotic Cray twins was so gripping to watch. He delivered every line perfectly and was hilarious in both roles. I definitely need to rewatch this one. To be completely honest, I didn't enjoy it on my first watch, but that doesn't mean it's a bad film. I understood the themes and the message of Taxi Driver, but I don't think I was in the right frame of mind to watch it, which is why I don't want to give it a rating just yet. The plot of The Departed was brilliant, and the performances that went along with it matched this standard. However, the poor editing and a few continuity mistakes took me out of it a lot of times. Memento was phenomenal. I knew it was going to be good, but I didn't expect to love it this much. Guy Pearce was incredible, and Christopher Nolan is always a fantastic director. I really liked this anthology, and I obviously loved Wes Anderson's style. I do think it's the weakest of the 3 Anderson projects I've seen so far, but I still enjoyed watching it. This film was weird. Really weird. Most of the time I enjoyed the randomness, and I get that the whole point of the weirdness is to make you feel uneasy, but to me it felt a bit forced some of the time. Maybe it's because I already knew some of the plot points that were meant to be surprising, and so I didn't feel the same effect as most viewers would. Way of Water was honestly a bit of a disappointment. The special effects were flawless, providing the best CGI that I've ever seen. However, the plot failed to entertain me because I wasn't invested in any of the characters. The dialogue and performances were both pretty subpar, but overall I enjoyed my time watching it. Alright, time for rewatches. These ones will be quicker, I promise. We live in a society, can't wait for the sequel.
Life moves pretty fast. You don't stop and look around once in a while, you could miss it.
Second best looking animation I've ever seen. Love the colour scheme, love Wes Anderson as a director, not as a beacon of morality. This is the second best Studio Ghibli film, Lapid is better, I'm not sorry. Animation is gorgeous, every character shows so much personality through their movement, I love it. This film's sweet, it's cute, and the rain sounds nice. I'm gonna say it, this is a bad film. The cinematography is boring, the writing is so awful, and the plot doesn't even make sense. The only positive were the treatments of Toby and Andrew and how well it sets Tom's up. 80s classic, if you haven't seen it, what are you doing?
Yeah, baby! Yeah.
This film is perfect. There's not a single thing I'd change about it. It has the best animation I've ever seen, and I'm so excited for both sequels. Also, Miles is better than Peter. Wicked, innit? Very nice, wow, we were.
Who always pays their taxes? Not Batman!
It's one of my favourite Disney films. Every song is a banger. Ivan McLovin ID probably says more about me than the film, but it tells you everything you need to know. Call me basic, call me old-fashioned, I love Tobey Maguire, and Willem Dafoe slays and everything. As much as I love Willem, Alfred Molina did it better. Couldn't see him. This is my favourite Star Wars film, but I don't really want to give it a numerical rating right now. I want to rewatch the whole saga, so I might do a video where I talk about every Star Wars film. Actually, I'd have to watch Rise of Skywalker again for that, so maybe not. I absolutely love Monty Python, and this is one of the group's best projects. Pretty much every line is hilarious. You know it's a good film when the opening credits get hijacked by a moose. This one might be even better than Holy Grail. Every scene in Life of Brian is brilliant. If you somehow haven't seen it, go watch it. Slightly less shagadelic than the first one, but it's still groovy. I love 1917 so much. The cinematography is absolutely gorgeous. I love the fact that it's all in one shot. The plot is obviously heart-wrenching, and every performance is stellar. This film is absolutely brilliant. I've watched it twice now and it stunned me both times. The messages of the platform are shocking, and Ivan Masag was spectacular in his role. Nativity is one of the best Christmas films ever made. I watch it every year, but Die Hard still clears. Thank you all so much for watching this video. It took me so long to make. If you enjoyed it, leave a like and subscribe. I'd really appreciate it. I'll be posting video essays on films, along with my own short films, when I eventually make them. Follow me on Instagram to read full-length reviews of all the films I watch. Let me know what films you watched this year in the comments, as well as what films I should watch next year. Merry Christmas everyone. Also, I'm watching Glass Onion on Christmas Eve, but I don't want to record or edit in the limbo between Christmas and New Year's.